Welcome to the Third House podcast. I'm Erica, your host, and together we'll unravel the astrological and psychological tapestry that shapes our lives. Join me on this exploration towards our deepest potential and authentic selves. I can't wait to connect on our journey of self-discovery, so let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the North Node entering Pisces podcast episode. Now, when I recorded January horoscopes for 2025, I recorded that. It's kind of a blur, but I believe in December of 2024. I don't know how I did that because December was so chaotic. So if you're feeling, January again is this weird. There's parts of January that's still sort of turning inward, but things are also in this weird transition phase as we enter 2025. And I think part of that transition phase is the North Node and South Node changing signs. So the North Node has been in Aries and the South Node in Libra for some time. Roughly 18 months is when the nodes transit signs. So we're kind of moving off that Aries-Libra axis of sort of being an individual versus, partnership. My needs versus the needs of others. Definitely sort of like self-identity, identity topics really coming up, how that can be integrated with other people and partnership, and how we can really form our own self-expression, our own individuality, while also being able to be around others or partnerships, relationships, etc., among many other things. I don't really want to take up too much time talking about Aries and Libra because we're sort of moving off that axis regarding the nodes. So we're definitely, the North Node moves into Pisces, and consequently the South Node will move into Virgo on January 11th, 2025. So yes, a lot of us are coming off of that December chaos. We had that Saturn Jupiter square. We had, an interesting full moon, new moon situation playing out, among many other details, where it was a lot. It was a lot for some of us. So if you're feeling kind of wonky, like I've heard from many of you, and just, individuals in my personal life, don't be surprised. It's okay. We're in this weird, funky transition phase where I think a lot is working itself out, especially the first half of 2025. And then things will, I think, feel very, very different the summer of 2025 onward. But we're in this weird untangling phase. So before I jump in, this is not conclusive. This does not take into account your natal placements, that the nodes might be transiting, which will definitely increase particular stories playing out. So definitely refer to your natal chart. Check out the description below where you can find links to my website, appointments, 2025 guides if you haven't already. And anyways, let's jump in. Let's just get into it. So I will first go through my own interpretation of the Pisces Virgo axis, and then I will go through each rising sign to discuss the houses. Signs and houses are different. Some people merge the two together. So for example, some people think, the first house is always associated with Aries-like qualities. I do not do that. So I am separating house versus sign. But I first want to go through the signs to kind of talk about generally like what I think Virgo and Pisces really represent. And then that way you can apply that information to the houses that the North and South Node will be transiting through, I believe, July of 2026. So I will be using whole sign for this. I predominantly use whole sign. I am also trained in Placidus. I sometimes use both for myself, so it's not that big of a deal. But if you are committed to Placidus house system, then make sure to look at your chart and see if Pisces and Virgo is intercepted, because this could add another layer of meaning. Now, whether you know intercepted or you don't know intercepted, don't worry. An intercepted house is just a house with 3 signs inside of it. So basically, 2 signs in your chart become completely engulfed. And so if you have Pisces and Virgo intercepted, then you might have additional layers of figuring out how to access and express these signs, particularly with the nodes moving into these signs. So it's not something to worry about. It's not a bad thing. So please don't worry about it. I honestly think this could be, for all of us, but even if you have intercepted Pisces, Virgo, it could be a really valuable time with the nodes moving into these signs, where it's really roughly an 18-month opportunity to help all of us learn the gifts and the lessons that come with these signs that could provide balance and perspective to these areas of our chart and thus our lives. So to jump in, some general interpretations of Pisces and Virgo and what the nodes and eclipses moving into these areas could really start to amplify, I think, is sort of the whole concept of matter versus spirit, perfecting versus completing, the physical versus the spiritual. Now, there's a lot to unpack with that contrast there, but Virgo is generally focused on analyzing and improving the physical world. Now, I want to clarify, we all have Virgo and Pisces in our chart. So this is not to say if you're a Virgo sun sign or a Virgo rising that this general information in totality applies to you. We all have all 12 signs in our chart. So a part of our chart and thus our lives sort of embody the qualities of this sign, and among many other things that, I don't have time to get into. But Virgo is generally focused on analyzing and improving the physical world. So I think an important gift Virgo energy can provide the world is a simulation. The ability to stay grounded while we integrate new concepts. We're here on Earth, and so we have to take different concepts, especially spiritual, intangible, non-tangible parts of life, and ground it into something useful or even a tangible experience for the world, right? I think ultimately Virgo is definitely a service-oriented sign, but the not archetype, but the energy of Virgo is what is, to me, this is my own interpretation, is what is useful. What is useful so that we can perfect that and it can be of service to the world. So Pisces, on the other hand, seeks the higher spiritual truth that may not always fit into a nice, tangible box here on Earth. So if Virgo is compartmentalizing and analyzing for improvement, Pisces is seeing where there's overlap between those boxes, that many things in life merge. And I like to think of it as sort of like the gray area in life. Not everything is so black and white. What is the gray area? And although the gray area can be uncomfortable for a lot of us, it's where we can have a little bit more compassion. We can find a little bit more empathy, or we can find the deeper truth to whatever it is we're focusing on. So I think Pisces can help others develop their sensitivities, get in touch with the emotional body and intuition. Again, that there is a world happening beyond what we can see, and that analyzing something to death can rob you of the joy and expansion you seek in life. So it's sort of like if we're hyper fixated and focused on one thing, trying to perfect it and improve it, and we don't stop to look around, we can miss the bigger picture, or we can miss important details to improving or perfecting that thing. So one is not better than the other. And I think this is the really important thing I like to express about the North Node and the South Node, or opposing signs. One is not better than the other. It's important to not fall too back on the South Node and forget about the North Node, and not forget about the South Node and just focus on the North Node. There are innate lessons and gifts within both that, when integrated, can create a lot of value and even success. So with the South Node moving into Virgo, we could find comfort in being able to discriminate and analyze that house in our chart. While the area of our chart ruled by Pisces could be seeking some sort of integration. Maybe for some of us, depending on the house, seeking more faith. The whole principle of let go and let God. So, for instance, say the Pisces-Virgo axis is 2nd and 8th house, either one, financial houses. Or let's just focus on finances with the 2nd and the 8th as an example. How can there be that Virgo element of organizing finances, budgeting finances, getting really clear about what's coming in, what's going out, versus what you want to do with it, right? Pisces is ruled by Jupiter. Where do you want to expand it? Where do you want to have more faith with it? Where do you want to invest that money? Money is currency. Currency is energy. So not to get too hyper fixated on the number itself, again, working with the budget and working with numbers, but also leaving room for that Pisces faith and expansion, and understanding that whatever the financial number is right now, it's temporary. It's not forever. So, I like the financial, that's kind of an easy one to understand, because we all have to make money or manage money to survive. So that's sort of like something we understand, an energy we understand. Where Virgo, yes, we have to analyze, we have to improve, we have to budget, we have to look at the numbers, the facts. But also Pisces, where, okay, that's that, and we can maintain that, but where can we leave room to expand upon that, have faith in what we want to do with that currency or that energy. So I believe we need, again, I believe we need to balance the nodes, not leave the south node behind and only focus on the north node or vice versa. I'll get into the rising signs and houses in a moment, but where we can think about sort of the Pisces, Virgo themes and how they might manifest with the house themes. But I'm hoping the North Node in Pisces can help us individually and collectively soften the critical approach, where we can integrate a bit more forgiveness and compassion, especially with what's going on globally, and basically that what we are doing physically has a major impact on the spiritual. Hello, Aries risings. So the North Node is going to shift into your 12th house, and the South Node will be shifting into your Virgo 6th house. So it's important to remember that, okay, the 12th house is a lot of things. Some people have different flavors of looking at it, but the South Node to me is sort of, yes, the subconscious thought patterns, for better or worse. It's where we meditate, it's where we rest, it's where we seek solitude. But it is also the place that is sort of hidden. But if you're looking at the chart, the 12th house is above the horizon, which means it's technically visible. It is averse to the first house. But what's interesting about the 12th house is it's hidden, it's averse, but it's above the horizon. So it's sort of like the place we try to hide certain things, or yeah, basically like things that we try to hide, or we are not completely consciously aware of, but other people can see. I think that's a hard part about the 12th house. So the North Node moving into the 12th house, I think, is an invitation to start expanding upon what is going on mentally, what is going on subconsciously, what is your life vision, what are, and even on just like a day-to-day basis, how much rest and solitude are you seeking? If you're interested in sort of the yoga meditation route, this could also sort of increase themes upon that. But really, the 12th house to me is a deep mental house that, our subconscious thought patterns can create our tangible reality. And it's sort of like the best way I can describe the 12th house. I shouldn't say the best way, but one way I describe the 12th house is through that concept where it's really easy to look at someone and see the thing that they need to do, the exact solution to their problem. You look at someone else's life, why are they doing that? It's such an easy solution. It's so easy to look from the outside in and know what that person needs to do. But when you're them with their subconscious thought patterns, living their day-to-day life, parts that you don't see, it's incredibly challenging for them to see the things that they need to do. Which is why I think the 12th house, some people call it the house of self-undoing. It's where we can sort of unravel ourselves. And I think this is where the North Node moving into the 12th can be an invitation to, yes, seek rest, recharge, solitude, meditate. But it can be an excellent transit at particular times where you can uncover the subconscious thought patterns that are not working for you versus the ones that are working for you. Now, if you look at the South Node in the opposite house, your Virgo 6th house, the 6th house is your routines, your health, your wellness, your work. Not necessarily your career, but sort of like your day-to-day work, your day-to-day task, your coworkers. So this could really bring into it could bring the opportunity to balance where are you, how do I want to describe this? Sort of like the 6 in the house. Let's take the health and wellness example. Going on a strict diet or developing a routine for a quick fix that does not have sustainability or longevity is going to, it might work temporarily, but say you're having problems with health or, your vitality, focusing on your routines, any type of daily routine, daily work, health, whatnot. What is going on mentally that's affecting that? So again, playing into that Virgo Pisces concept of the physical versus the spiritual. Well, when I'm talking about the 6th and the 12th pertaining to Virgo and Pisces, this to me is like an opportunity to look at metaphysical. What is a metaphysical situation affecting the health? And how is your health affecting your work, your routines? It could be as simple as 12-6, like, are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting enough rest so that you can really show up for your health? You can really show up for your work and stick to your routines. So this, I think, could definitely be an invitation to see where your health affects your physical health affects your mental health, and how your mental health affects your physical health. How sleep and time alone to recharge can actually improve your routines, improve your ability to stick to your routines. So definitely this is, I think, a wonderful opportunity to balance the mind and the body. Hello, Taurus risings. Now, the North Node is going to shift into your Pisces 11th house, and consequently, the South Node will shift into your Virgo 5th house. Now, the good news with this is that the 11th and the 5th house tend to be fun houses. They're enjoyable houses. You have the North Node, or that point of increase or desire, moving into the 11th house of friends, groups, communities, and long-term goals. So not just fun, but also, hopes, dreams, aspirations in life. And the South Node in that Virgo 5th house, the 5th house is definitely a pleasurable house. It is the house of joy. 5th house is also children, so maybe the topic of children comes up for many of you. So I like to, there is an astrologer called Kevin Burke, and I like his example of the 11th house is the clubhouse and the 5th house is the game room. So in the clubhouse, you're going to be around a lot more people, right? The 11th house, friends, groups, communities, long-term goals. You're going to be around a lot more people. You're going to be social networking. Maybe there's conversations about, your hopes, your dreams, your aspirations, the bigger picture. Now the 5th room the fifth room. The fifth house is, as he says, the game room. So the game room is, in the corner of the clubhouse. It's a little bit more intimate. The game room where you're playing cards, you're going to pick particular people to play that game with. So the fifth house is joy. It's pleasure, including sex. A lot of people think the eighth house. The eighth house is definitely sex, death, and transformation. But the fifth house is the where you seek enjoyment in life, and that can be part of that. So, but it's more intimate, right? It's maybe the closer friends or the closer people that really fill you with joy. Or, your children. Your children are obviously very close to you. You created them, most of you, unless, adoption or whatnot. But regardless, those are intimate, close loved ones that you have joyful moments with. So whatever it is in that fifth house that's bringing you joy, the south node being there, you could be releasing things that no longer bring you joy to make room for things that do bring you joy. You could be releasing outdated, if you're dating or, in romantic situations, you could be releasing things that, aren't improving the romantic life or the dating life. If you're a creative projects, self-expression, this could be a place of comfort for you over roughly the next 18 months, where you could sort of reorganize, perfect, and improve those creative projects through releasing, outdated ways of doing it, where that north node in that Pisces 11th house can be a huge invitation to focus on the bigger picture. Focus on the dreams, the hopes, the aspirations, expanding the social network, the friends, the long-term goals. So I think this is sort of an interesting flow, because if you think about it, with the nodes coming off the Aries Libra axis for roughly the past year and a half, 18 months, that was in your 12th and your 6th. So there could have been increasing or amplifying themes around subconscious thought patterns. Things could have played out in life that really had you look at your mental health or your life vision, and how changes to work and routines and health, played into that. Or some of you could have released work or released certain health or routines, whether you wanted to or not, that sort of forced you to look at the life vision, what you want, and how those subconscious thought patterns are really shaping that. Now the nodes are moving into, well, after all of that, how can you take potentially the new work, new ways of working, new routines, health, mental health stuff that for many of you got amplified. Again, it depends on your personal chart and placements, but how can you take that and now focus on the bigger picture? What you really want. What are I think a lot of Taurus risings, kind of the past 18-ish months, had to untangle a lot of, things were happening, but it's sort of like, okay, now what? Now what's the next thing? What do I do now? And those moments can really force us into having to figure out, what is it that I really want? Where do I go from checking boxes to living life and focusing on the aspiration, the long-term goals, what I truly want to do in this life? And I think with the nodes moving into more fun houses, I think it can help you balance expanding upon the goals or uncovering the dreams and aspirations, where you can also I think the South Node in the Virgo fifth house can be an invitation to either definitely have comfort and time with your children or your closest friends or closest loved ones, closest relationships, to, always fall back on that, on the creative projects, on the joy, the pleasure, and the romance. Hello, Gemini risings. The North Node will be moving into your Pisces 10th house of career and public recognition, and consequently, the South Node will move into your Virgo 4th house of home, family, property, and real estate. So, Saturn's been going through your 10th house of career for some time. So, a lot of Gemini risings have had, career has been a prominent theme for many of you. Sometimes, we're talking Saturn, so it may have been a lot of hard work and discipline. But with the North Node moving into this area, I think the themes of career, business, and public recognition will continue to increase. But where the nodes are, the eclipses start to move into. And so I think this is where 2025, a lot of you are going to start to see the shifts and changes. Now, it's also important to note when the nodes are in the 10th and the 4th, it is squaring the 1st and the 7th. So these are all angular houses in the chart. So I often find when the nodes are in these angular houses, we see a lot of change and action that's visible. It's external. It's involving you, career, personal and professional partnerships, home, family, property, real estate are sort of on the table for shifts, changes, movement, beginnings, endings. So, but regardless, that North Node is moving into your 10th house of career, business, and public recognition. So I think a lot of you are going to see increasing themes, especially if your midheaven. If your midheaven is in Pisces, that North Node is eventually going to go conjunct your midheaven. I like to think of the 10th house, again, I believe, as Kevin Burke says, like the 10th house is the corporate building, the midheaven is your corner office. So again, when the nodes hit those specific angles in our chart, it can really be felt. So with the North Node moving into the 10th house, definitely increasing themes around career, public recognition. But there could be increasing themes of like a hyper fixation, a hyper focus on, like, what is it that I really want to do? Like a lot of Gemini risings, it could be like, okay, I've been doing this, or, I have this career job or whatnot, but there could be this insatiable urge over the next year and a half to 18 months of really wanting to figure out what it is you want to do or how you want to package it together. Now, again, because the nodes are in an angular house, it's going to the 7th house axis is going to be at the south bending of that node. Again, it depends on your personal placements. So, in your natal nodes. But generally, your first house is going to be at the north bending, squaring the node. So I think there's also an element of increasing themes around your identity, how you want to show up in the world, where you're sort of maybe looking at how you connect with others, your personal and professional partnerships, which ones are really valuable, which ones are not, how to change the way you connect with people, where you can really increase the themes of your identity, how you want to show up in the world, how you want other people to view you, while career is really increasing. And, the South Node in the 4th house, yes, some of you could be releasing property or real estate, making moves, or renovations, releasing things within your own home that no longer serve you, that create more space for career, public recognition, and focusing on that. So it's not necessarily always a move, but it's on the table for some of you, depending on your personal placements and the transits. There could be a release around certain aspects of relationships, people you live with, family relationships that no longer serve you, right? So the South Node in the fourth, I think, can help a lot of Gemini risings create more comforting, better scenarios around the foundation of your chart and thus your life. So creating more comfortable, nourishing, sort of improving and perfecting, right? That Virgo, improving and perfecting, creating more comfort in the home, the family, the property, and the real estate, and whatever you have to do in order to do that, so that you can create more mental and physical and even spiritual space to expand the career, the business, and the public recognition. Hello, Cancer risings. Now, the North Node is going to move into your Pisces 9th house, and consequently the South Node will move into your Virgo 3rd house. Now, one thing I've noticed over the many years of doing this, working with clients, when the nodes move into the 9th and the 3rd, life gets really busy. Why? Because the 3rd house is communication, but the 3rd house is also where we exchange information. It's like our, daily environment, like neighborhood, community, short distance travel, transportation, technology. But it's sort of like where we run errands. I like to call it the 6th house too, but the 3rd house, like I like to call it like the busybody house. It's where we're taking care of like mundane tasks and, organizing and, exchanging information in order to do so. So that alone is busy. While we look at the 9th house is like higher education, it's travel. Where the 3rd house is short distance travel, the 9th house is long distance travel. So I'm like to think of it as the 3rd house would be like short distance, like weekend getaways or domestic travel, while the 9th house is, longer distance or international. The 9th house is also the spirituality, the religion. So there's a lot going on with the 9th and the 3rd. It's not necessarily, they're not angular houses, so it's not so, career and home and family and marriage and self and very big external events, but it can definitely have noticed it creates a lot of opportunity for busyness. Now with the North Node moving into your Pisces 9th house, definitely pay attention to your natal chart. If your midheaven is in your Pisces 9th house, this is definitely going to increase career, business, and public recognition themes. Combined with the 9th house themes of, growth, potential, higher education, teaching, publishing, travel, if I haven't already said that, spirituality. So again, definitely pay attention to that. But regardless, with the North Node moving into that Pisces 9th house, it's sort of this invitation of like, how can you perfect and improve the mundane task, the daily, day-to-day, immediate things in your immediate environment, right? Taking care of the car, running errands, communicating, exchanging information, short distance travel, sort of doing the errands, the appointments, all of that, the paperwork, so to speak. So how can there be comfort in communication and streamlining and creating efficiency within those 3rd house themes so that you can focus more on the bigger picture, the the learning, the expansion, the growth, the potential, the travel. So some of you on just like more on a more superficial layer, there might be a lot more travel going on over the next year and a half to 18 months, whether that's for pleasure or for professional reasons. Either way, this is an excellent opportunity to look at where can I perfect and improve the busy work, the technology. If you work with social media, if you work with any of the communication fields, this could be sort of how can I streamline and create more efficiency with those things to focus more on the travel, the spirituality, the education, the publishing, the teaching. So if you are a writer or a teacher in any way, this could really help you, focus on just that. Focus on the things that you love to do within those things, teaching, publishing, while sort of maybe improving or perfecting the day-to-day environment so you have more time to focus on those things. This could definitely, again, to me, one thing I've noticed over the years, the nodes and the eclipses happening in the 9th and the 3rd, life, suddenly really gets busy, especially if your midheaven and your IC are in Pisces and Virgo. So in your 9th and your 3rd house as a Cancer rising. So in particular, definitely look out for career, business, public recognition themes. And if your IC is in your Virgo 3rd house, this could also tie into similar themes with the Gemini rising, where you could be releasing, perfecting, or improving the home, family, property, and real estate themes to focus more and expand more on the career, business, and public recognition themes. Hello, Leo risings. The North Node is moving into your Pisces 8th house, and consequently, the South Node is moving into your Virgo 2nd house. Now, the 8th and the 2nd house are definitely money and resource houses, but they are also self-worth, transformational houses. So there's a lot on the table, especially with the 8th, because the 8th is, so basically, to boil it down into really, really simple terms, the 2nd house is what's mine. The 8th house is other people's resources that we share. It's shared resources. Now, the 8th house can also be, it's sort of like where we merge. And when we merge, sometimes there can be transformational work. There can be to reach that mutual empowerment. The 8th house is also death. So this is why inheritance, wills, trusts, those things land in the 8th house. So with the North Node moving into the 8th house, there's a lot on the table. So I would definitely pay attention to shared resources, whether it's personal or professional, like with partnerships, financial aspects, transformational work. The 8th house is fears. It's where our fears are. So I actually, like on a deeper psychological level, I like to think of the 8th house of like where we really want security. And whenever our security is threatened or affected, it is grounds for fear, right? That's normal human reaction, as well as, death, inheritance, wills, legal contracts. Those things can definitely increase fear as a human being. So with the 2nd house, the South Node moving into that Virgo 2nd house, yes, a South Node, the transiting South Node with the transits going over the South Node can cause a release of some sort. But I like to think of it as, what are you releasing that's allowing you to improve and perfect your money, your finances? So I think with the South Node moving into the 2nd house, there could be there can be this element of like comfort in making money. A lot of Leo risings can be moving into a place of just feeling like the area of life that you could move into that feels more comfortable is just making money. Like, how can I make money? The last time the South Node transited, I'm a Leo rising. So the last time the South Node transited or as well as my Virgo second house, that's when I really started to increase money, increase my profits in my life. Like, I went from not making any money to finding a lot of comfort in working and seeing the reward and finding ways to sort of like perfect and improve my ability to make money. Like, I remember I was still very young. I went through a phase of, even at a very young age, like as a teenager, getting sort of like my first couple jobs. Like, I went through a phase of realizing like, oh, if I go or if I do this job, then I can make more money doing this in less time, which leaves more time to make money in other ways. So I found like I definitely remember going through a phase of like really finding a lot of comfort in making my own money, right? The second house is what's mine. It's also self-worth. So, not attaching what you're making to your self-worth, but really anchoring into your self-worth so that you are getting paid what you should. Now, with that being said, comfort in making money could definitely be a strong theme that comes up over the next year and a half to 18 months, or seeking ways to do so. With the North Node in Pisces, it's sort of like, how can you expand upon that? How can you, the eighth house is like the investments, the assets. So where can you find comfort in increasing your profits in whatever way? And it doesn't always have to be money. It could be material possessions or just like increasing your self-worth to increase the transformation, to increase the investments, the assets, the shared resources. I like to think of the eighth house as sort of like the long-term financial stuff. So the second house is like your paycheck, while the eighth, this is my opinion, not everyone's going to agree with me on this, but I like to think of like the second house. If the second house is your paycheck, the eighth house is like, what do you do with that? Where do you invest that? I think a lot of Leo risings are going to move into like a year and a half to 18-month period of thinking like, okay, I want to take the money I make now, but I want it to work for me. I want to work smarter, not harder. How can I create, again, eighth house, I think on a psychological level is the security. How can I take what I'm making right now and create more security for myself in the future? Whether that be through shared resources or your own investments, assets, and whatnot. Now, the second and the eighth is self-worth, transformation, fear even. So there might be some transits or transits to your own natal placements with this that sort of have you look at how money is currency and currency is energy, and how, and I say we as a Leo rising, like how our own fears can manipulate or create the results around our finances. So I think that can be another thing that comes up in addition to really getting anchored and finding comfort in your value, in your self-worth. So that, because no matter what transformational work comes up, no matter what fears come up, if you are always anchored in your self-worth and your self-value, you will always have that to fall back on as a strong foundation to bounce back faster. So again, I would definitely pay attention to financial themes, personal and professional partnerships in terms of shared resources that, come online or already are online. Any legal matters that, you're already dealing with, inheritance, if you're going through divorce or separation, the eighth house is definitely a house you want to pay attention to, especially with the North Node moving into that. But if you're married, single, those things aren't really on the table. I think this is going to be a great time to anchor into balancing the financial aspect of your life in a way where you can perfect and improve sort of the money, the paycheck, crunch the numbers, but sort of expand upon and move into sort of working smarter, not harder, and seeing how you can take even just a little bit of that money now and you can invest it, and it can, like, Pisces is like no boundaries, right? It dissolves, like there's no boundaries, it's boundlessness. So how I like to think of it is, the North Node moving into Pisces, how can you take a little bit of that paycheck and pay down that debt? Or how can you take a little bit of that paycheck and invest, where when you invest, a lot of, like, sometimes it doesn't work out. But if we're looking at Pisces North Node kind of concepts, sometimes when we invest in things, it's going to grow much more than if we just save, right? Virgo is like can be hyper fixated. This is my saving box. But how can you look up occasionally and say, well, what if I take a little bit out of the saving box and I put it and I invest it in something that I really truly believe in? And it can grow into something much, much more, where there's some level of boundlessness to how much it can grow over many, many years to come. Hello, Virgo risings. Now the North Node is going to shift into your Pisces 7th house of marriage and partnership. So these are long-term partnerships, but it's really personal and professional partnerships, in my opinion. And consequently, the South Node is going to move into your Virgo 1st house of self, body, appearance, identity, really how you show up in the world and how other people view you. So really, this is highlighting the axis of you versus the other, your needs versus the needs of others. I like to think of this axis as, or really like the 7th house, as our mirror. The 1st house, generally speaking, this isn't true for everyone, but just generally, 1st house is who we had to be or we have to be. And the 7th house is sort of like the qualities that we want to or need to embody, but can sometimes villainize. So that 7th house can play that mirror. What is being mirrored back to you through your relationships or partnerships that you want to or need to embody within yourself? So what I often find with the 1st and 7th house axis, especially with the North Node moving through the 7th house, right, that point of increase, desire, moving through the 7th. So on a more, general sort of superficial layer, some of you could want to get married. Some of you might really want that long-term partnership. Some of you could see increasing themes with the urge to merge, essentially, personally or professionally. But this could also increase just people coming into your life. So I would pay attention to sort of what are over the next year and a half to 2 years, what are the qualities that you want to embody? What are the qualities that what do you want to change about your identity, yourself, your body, your appearance, how you show up in the world, internally and externally, right? What are those qualities that you feel you don't quite have, but could lead you to success in all different areas of life? Now, with the North Node moving into that 7th house of partnership, what are your partnerships, marriage, or new partnerships coming into your life showing you about those qualities, right? So sometimes, like, whatever we don't want to embody or change, sometimes we're not even aware of it, about ourselves, people will come into our lives or certain things will happen within our partnerships that sometimes brings up those uncomfortable feelings. But if you take a step back, you can see, oh, this is really an opportunity to deal with A, B, and C about myself. So that's why I think the 7th house is a mirror in many aspects. Like, what are your partnerships mirroring back to you about the things we want to change or embody within ourselves? A lot of times we think, oh, this type of character, appearance, identity, it's your doing. It is in many ways, but the people we surround ourselves with can, there could be certain aspects of that partnership. There could be certain aspects to the conflicts within that partnership that are getting us to face the core of, what we want to embody. So, for example, in my chart, one thing I've had to learn to embody throughout my life is detachment, not the cold-hearted detachment, but I need to be, helpful. I need to be the light, shine, help, support for others, and not have any particular expectation. Sometimes, we do things wanting to help and support, and sometimes it doesn't lead to anything. Sometimes it feels like you're defeated. It didn't do anything. It didn't really help. So I've had to learn and embody my 7th house, which is Aquarius, which is many things, but sort of like learning to love with detachment, learning to love with no expectation of any particular outcome, just doing it from the heart, becoming more heart-centered. It's been, it's easier said than done, because it's hard to extend yourself and expend a lot of energy and light, and you feel like it doesn't really go anywhere. But I've had to really embody that detachment. And so a lot of people throughout my life, some are still in my life, some are not, have come into my life to create friendships and partnerships. And even within my own marriage, these situations sort of manifest out of nowhere. And it's really, I take a step back and I'm like, okay, where am I being too attached to a particular outcome? Where am I being too like rigid with my energy and my resources? And how can I have more faith and light and sovereignty within myself to allow sort of life just happens. And sometimes when we're too attached to a particular outcome, the outcome that we get is less than what was actually possible. So, sort of seeing how things play out in certain relationships in my life have taught me that level of detachment. And so, with the North Node moving into your seventh, South Node in the first, I think it's a wonderful opportunity to find comfort in, your identity, who you want to be, your appearance, your body. These are angular houses. So they're going to square your 10th house of career and your 4th house of home and family. And your career is going to be at the north bending, which is sort of this like point of increase. And the home and family will be at the south bending, which is sort of a point of decrease. So where can you find comfort in anchoring into maybe a new identity, a new appearance, who you really want to be known for, how that plays into increasing themes with career, business, public recognition, while simultaneously releasing anything about home, family, property, and real estate that is not serving you, but it's also not serving the people you live with, or other family relationships, while you can sort of simultaneously, I know this is a huge mouthful, simultaneously sort of maybe embody more of the Pisces archetype. So, like I mentioned in the beginning, very generalized things about Pisces and Virgo, in my opinion. Um, where can you maybe find comfort in perfecting and improving, again, South Node, first house, yourself, your body, your appearance, while integrating that within, assimilating and having faith and understanding how when you focus on perfecting yourself and improving yourself, it can have such an expansive effect on your partnerships. Instead of villainizing or, projecting or thinking like, maybe some of you look at your partner and you're like, man, I wish I could embody those qualities. I'm so envious that they can move through life this way, and thinking you can't embody those qualities. And that's not true. The reason, like, you absolutely can. So not projecting, not playing a prosecutor, not playing a martyr, or even a victim within your partnerships, and sort of looking at them as saying, like, how can I use my partnerships as mirrors to improve and perfect myself, that will consequently assimilate and integrate that within my partnerships, where even more perfection and expansion and boundlessness can be found within the partnerships you truly want in your life. Hello, Libra rising. Now, the North Node is going to move into your Pisces 6th house. This is daily work, health, routines. And consequently, the South Node is going to move into your Virgo 12th house. Now, the 12th house is, I like to think of it as the subconscious thought patterns, for better or worse, your dreams, meditation, solitude, rest, recharge sort of area. What's interesting about the 12th house is that it's averse to the first. So it is sort of this hidden house. It's sort of a shadow house, but it's above the horizon if you look at your chart. So with it being above the horizon, it's sort of like it's visible. The things that sometimes some things that we try to hide, like those subconscious thought patterns, or like those patterns that maybe aren't the best for us, that we think are sort of like hidden, they're many times they're visible to other people. So the example I gave in the I think it was the Aries rising, it's really easy to look at someone else in their life and pick out the things that they need to change in order to get the result that they want. It's really it's like so easy to look from the outside in. But when you actually, that person, their life, their subconscious thought patterns, the things that you don't really see in their lives, what they've gone through, it's really hard for them to see it. It's sort of like their evolution and their journey. So the 12th house is like, that's why I think it's called the house of undoing. It's like where we can really unravel ourselves, but again, it's above the horizon. So it's like this, I don't know, it's this weird. So you might, especially coming off the 1st and 7th house axis, the me versus the other, me versus partnership with Aries and Libra over the past year and a half to 18 months. Some of you might have encountered people that were mirroring back something to you about yourself that may have, for some of you, it might have been uncomfortable. So there might have been like partnership themes or things being mirrored back to you that maybe you wanted to integrate within yourself, change within yourself, your identity. And now the North Node is moving into the 6th house of daily work, health, routine. So some of you could see increasing themes around sort of like your 9 to 5, coworkers, routines, but definitely pay attention to like the health situation, especially with Saturn being there for some time. So some of you, again, it depends on your personal chart, have been going through, various degrees of health situations playing out and really creating the longevity, the sustainability, and the routines to support health in your life and vitality. So the North Node moving here can sort of increase those themes as well. But I think this is where things start to really change because the eclipses are going to come in here and cause changes, and then Saturn's going to start moving out of this area. But with the South Node in going through your Virgo 12th, this could be the next year and a half to 18 months could be a time where there's comfort in sleep, rest, solitude. Some of you might be going through a period of like being more comfortable by yourselves, being more comfortable seeking more solitude and meditation, or even if you're very extroverted, some of you might be going through a period of being more comfortable sitting with your thoughts. How your mental health and your thought patterns affect your health, your work, and your routines, and how your physical health affects your mental health. So there's definitely themes of sort of like what's going on with the mind and the body and vice versa. But I think on a deeper level, with the South Node going through the 12th, this could be an excellent opportunity for some Libra risings, in my opinion, to completely release what is no longer serving you mentally. So releasing subconscious thought patterns, releasing, like seeing where the repeated patterns that you no longer want that are really affecting your work, your health, your routines. Like the South Node can be a point of release, and the transits to that over the next year and a half to 18 months can be excellent opportunities to sort of see like what's going on subconsciously and how that is creating a tangible reality in your life. And with the South Node, it's sort of like you get to take the trash out. That's what I like to say. You get to take transits to the especially with the transiting South Node. Where are you taking the trash out? And for you, it's sort of like mentally. Where can you release the mental blocks, the mental burdens? Where can you seek more solitude, rest, recharge to support your body, to support your health, to stay on track with your vitality and your routines? So this can be an excellent opportunity to make changes once and for all in really increasing ways, specifically to sort of the physical health, the vitality, the routines, work, coworkers, and try to carve out more time for solitude, rest, and recharge to sort of clear your mind and release the mental burdens that really aren't serving you anymore. Hello, Scorpio risings. I almost had like a brain fart halfway through saying Scorpio. I apologize for that. Anyways, the North Node is moving into your Pisces 5th house, and consequently, the South Node is going to move into your Virgo 11th house. Now, I like Kevin Burke's explanation of the 5th and the 11th, where the 11th is the clubhouse. 11th house is your friends, groups, communities, long-term goals, hopes, dreams, aspirations. So if you can imagine yourself with the 11th house being the clubhouse, clubhouse, you're going to be around a bunch of people. You're going to be having conversations about, what's going on with work? What's your goals? How's everything going? Expanding your social network, maybe meeting some people you've never met before. While the 5th house is the game room. So it's sort of like, yes, the 5th house is the place of joy. Children, romance, creativity, self-expression, the things that we seek to create more joy in our lives. So, but I like his explanation of the 5th house is more intimate. I think that's something that's not quite understood. The 11th house is it's your social network. You're socializing. It's your friends, your groups, your communities, your long-term goals. Like I said, the clubhouse. Whereas the game room is like that corner room in the clubhouse. You're going to pick very specific individuals to play cards with and have fun with. The people that you go into a large group gathering in the clubhouse, you're going to have very different conversations with those people compared to the people that you're much more picky choosy about to really let loose with or play games with. So that's how I like that explanation between those two, because they're both fun houses. But with the North Node moving into your 5th house, on a very just general, more superficial layer, some of you might have increasing themes around children, childcare, having children, not having children. But the 5th house is also like creativity, self-expression, having more fun, but again, in a more intimate way. You're picking and choosing who you have fun with wisely. That's how I like, the 5th house is definitely a more intimate house. The 5th house is also, if we're talking about joy and pleasure, romance, it's also an intimate house in terms of sex. The ancients put sex in the 8th house, for various reasons, but the 5th house, I think, is where it really ought to be. So, if we're talking about the 5th house representing children, some of us are adopted, but the way we create children is through sex. So I don't understand why that's not talked about in terms of the 5th house. But anyways, a lot of you could see increasing themes around that. Pleasure, joy, children, making children. But again, I think it's important to understand the 5th house is a more intimate house. So you could see increasing themes around wanting to enjoy life more, but in order to do so, having a lot more discernment around who you do that with. So again, you're going to have a Venus transit, and Venus rules the 7th house of partnership. You're also going to have a Mercury transit with Mercury and Venus. So Mercury ruling your friends, groups, communities, Venus ruling your partnership, retrograding, backing up and interacting with that North Node in that Pisces fifth house of joy. So I think, on a deeper level, at least the first couple months of 2025, you're going to get an opportunity early on with this nodal transit to review and revise the long-term personal and professional partnerships, as well as the friends groups communities long-term goals, to find that level of discernment regarding the people that you can truly enjoy life with. So you'll get that opportunity, luckily, early on in this nodal transit instead of, say, like mid or later. So I do like that aspect of it. But regardless, the fifth house, it's a fun house. So you could see increasing, if you're single, you could see increasing themes around like dating, romance. Again, if you're interested in having children or you have children, you could see increasing themes with that, especially with Saturn still being in this area, sort of restructuring or creating new rules around that. But overall, I think this could be a really great time to focus on ways to feel good. Feel good about yourself, feel good about life. The fifth house trines the first house of self. So whatever you are increasing your focus on in terms of feeling good and enjoying life more, I think at some point in this transit is going to positively create a lot of ease and flow to supporting yourself, your body, your appearance, your identity, and how you want to show up in the world. So that's something that I think is really beautiful with this. That can be very supportive to Scorpio risings in particular. But again, where can you sort of take time to also find comfort in your long-term goals, your hopes, your dreams, your aspirations, even finding comfort in your social network, and understanding or trying to find that Virgo Pisces balance of how can I perfect and improve who I surround myself with and my long-term goals so that I can expand and find more spiritual juiciness in enjoying life, feeling more joy that ultimately supports you, your body, your appearance, and your identity. Hello, Sagittarius risings. Now, the North Node is going to move into your Pisces fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate. And consequently, the South Node, the opposite point, is going to move into your Virgo 10th house of career and public recognition. Now, with the North Node moving into your Pisces fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate, some of you might really be focusing on renovations, relocations, relationships with family, things that have sort of transpired with people you live with, or things within relationships and with family. So the increasing theme or focus could definitely be on sort of the more foundational aspect of your chart and thus your life. Some of you may be sort of really looking at how can I strengthen my foundation? So again, how can your living situation, your home, relationships with people you live with, or your family really support all the other areas of your chart and thus your life? Specifically with this transit, I would say really focus on supporting career, business, and public recognition. So taking care of business regarding, family matters, family time, people you live with, those relationships, really looking at a living situation. How can that sort of be renovated or revised or relocated to support whatever is going on in that area, but also really create a strong foundation for your business, your career, your public recognition. So I think a lot of Sagittarius risings could go through this transit and start to see how, relationship dynamics, relationships with family, people you live with, where you live, the, how you operate within your home really affects your ability to show up in the world, do a lot of other things, expand business, career, public recognition. So, really aiming to balance that, but in a way where the South Node is in that Virgo 10th house of career and public recognition. So, how can I think some of you might find comfort in work over the next year and a half to 18 months, but in a way where, maybe you're focusing on it so that you can perfect and improve it, so that you can find more time with family, your children, people you live with, um, you know, being a homebody if you want. So this is not, I think there's a big misconception where, oh no, the South Node is going over, my 10th house or my midheaven, and my career and my business is going to end and plummet. That is not always the case. I usually find that when the South Node is going through the 10th or going over your midheaven, and individuals like leave their job, or something happens where they have to leave, usually they wanted to. Like it wasn't really serving them in many ways. Like they hated their job, or it made them miserable, or they wanted to leave anyways, or there was some aspect of it that was creating a major imbalance in their life. So sometimes the South Node can be really it can be uncomfortable in terms of like what is being released, but it doesn't always necessarily mean the the ending of a job and everything falls apart. I think we have to remember that the opposite point, the North Node, is going through the 4th house of home, family, property, and real estate. So where can there be more balance between work and home, work and family, but in a way where work, business, public recognition can be perfected and improved to create more boundlessness and expansion with home, family, property, and real estate. Hello, Capricorn risings. The North Node is moving into your Pisces 3rd house, and consequently, the opposite point, the South Node, will be moving into your Virgo 9th house. Now, over the years that I've been doing this, I've noticed when the nodes are in the 3rd and the 9th, life tends to get busy, particularly if the North Node is going through the 3rd, because the 3rd house is communication, siblings, extended family, but the 3rd house it's where we exchange information. It's where, we relate with day-to-day life. It's where we run errands and we do mundane tasks and appointments and paperwork. So I like to think of the 3rd house as very much a busy house, but in a way where, we're exchanging and communicating information. But I think with the North Node being here, day-to-day life, relationships with extended family, siblings, especially if you work in communication fields, so like social media, podcast, anything with like, communicating or exchanging information, short distance travel, technology, any of those things, you could really start to increase. Pay attention if your IC is in your Pisces 3rd house. If that's the case, you could see amplifying themes around home, family, property, and real estate. But regardless, some of you might be communicating more. You might be, really called to or have an increased desire to take care of, daily mundane tasks, communication type fields to create more efficiency in your daily environment. Now, with the South Node going through that Virgo 9th house, this again, the 9th house is another travel house. So travel is definitely on the table in terms of like increasing. But with the South Node going through the Virgo 9th, it's like, where can you find comfort to fall back on knowledge, spirituality, travel? So some of you might be traveling, seeking knowledge, spirituality over the next year and a half, roughly 18 months, to sort of pull you out of mundane life, where you can find a lot of comfort and, in a way, seek the knowledge, the spirituality, and travel. Just sort of take a step back and perfect and improve particular parts of your life so that you can find more efficiency or take care of daily life, communication tasks, technology, again, especially if you work in those fields or are looking into working in those fields. If you have close relationships with siblings, extended family, I would definitely pay attention to how those individuals could become more in the forefront of your life. So for instance, when my sister was going through this, I moved much closer to her. So my husband and I moved 1,600 miles closer to her. So it's sort of like that increased the relationship, that increased my ability to be more present. So it could be as simple as that. So definitely pay attention to those relationships and how they could increase or play out over the next year and a half to 18 months. But most importantly, for Capricorn risings, I think this is a good time to really remember to seek comfort and perspective and improvement by carving out time for yourself, either through spirituality, knowledge, or travel. Hello, Aquarius risings. The North Node is moving into your Pisces second house of earned income, material possessions, and self-worth. And consequently, the opposite point, the South Node, is moving into your Virgo eighth house. Now, the eighth house, yes, is sex, death, transformation, but it's really, other people's resources, shared resources. So if you're partnered up, either personally or professionally, the shared resources can come into play here. Other elements that might be on the table could be, legal matters. If you're getting divorced, if there's an inheritance, if, trust, wills, those things land here. So anything to do with sort of like shared resources, legality around financial stuff in terms of, stocks, bonds, investments, assets, loans, as well as transformational work. I think the confusing part about the eighth house being a financial house and also transformational work is, the eighth house is, I think, on a psychological level, involving security, right? The second house is what's mine. The eighth house is, what's ours or what's shared or what someone else's is. And so when something is yours, you keep it, there can be less grounds for security, right? If you're sharing something in the eighth, or you're merging to create mutual empowerment in the eighth, there's more grounds for fear, which is also an eighth house theme, but also elements of security. Why do we invest? Why do we have assets? To create security, to create financial security long term. Why do we merge resources? To create security long term. So I think ultimately the eighth house on a psychological level has a lot to do with security, and whenever our security is impacted, it can create fear, again, eighth house theme, and it can create an opportunity for transformational work. And that security could be, yes, financial, but it could also be, there's many types of security that we experience as human beings. So whenever any type of security is threatened, it is increasing fear, but also increasing a lot of other human emotions that, again, are an opportunity for transformation. Now, the South Node will be going through this 8th house. So I think for a lot of Aquarius risings, it could be a year and a half to 18 month-ish period of looking at maybe how much transformational work you've done, looking at how much, the South Node is, can be a place of comfort. And with it being in Pisces, like I mentioned in the beginning, like Pisces is boundlessness. It is, the let go and let God principle. It's having faith. It's, eighth, the Pisces situation, I think, can sometimes get a bad reputation because it's like, oh, it's boundlessness. It lacks boundaries. Well, yes, which I think Virgo, the opposite point, can help balance that. But when you have boundlessness, you have more potential. So, with these nodes landing in the financial houses, yes, self-worth, transformational work. But in my honest opinion, if you're Aquarius rising and you have a Capricorn 12th house and how much you've endured in that Capricorn 12th house of the subconscious since 2008, I think a lot of you have had your marathon, not a little jog, not a 5K, a straight up marathon in the subconscious department. And so I think for a lot of you, again, it depends on personal placements. I think this will be an excellent time to see where there is so much potential in the security that some of you have been able to create. Some of you might have shared resources. Some of you might have more faith in your finances. Where the North Node is in your Virgo 2nd house of earned income, material possessions, and self-worth. So regardless of the potential of what could play out in the 8th house for a lot of you, that North Node going through your Virgo 2nd house, I think, is sort of this like increased focus and desire to improve and perfect your ability to increase your income. So whatever support you have, whatever resources you have, whatever you've done transformational work wise to get you to a point to look at your finances and look at your self-worth differently, this could be a very valuable transit in sort of using your gifts, using your talents, right? The 2nd house is a financial house, but it's what's mine. What is yours? What is innate? What are your gifts, your talents that play into your self-worth, but also being a financial house can be monetized. So where can you have more faith in your security to focus more on perfecting your craft, perfecting your gift, perfecting your talents, and focusing and anchoring in on that and your self-worth. So I really think this could be, a beautiful time, because that North Node going through that 2nd house is going to start sextiling or creating potential opportunity to the 12th house, which your 12th house has had some real rockiness, excuse me, since 2008. That's now kind of cleared out. So I think with Pluto going through your 1st, right, creating empowerment and transformation to you, your body, your identity, North Node going into your 2nd house, what is yours? Again, the South Node is comfort, it's also release, but what can you continue releasing that's not serving you? It's not serving your fears. It's not serving your ability to anchor into your security and have faith. Where can you release that? And also simultaneously find comfort in the security that you can find within yourself or within whatever you've built with personal or professional partnerships. Finding security and comfort and mutual empowerment so that you can feel the faith and the support to focus on your self-worth, your talents, your gifts, which could ultimately increase your income. Hello, Pisces risings. The North Node is actually moving into your Pisces first house of self, body, appearance, and identity. And consequently, the opposite point is moving into your Virgo seventh house. So the South Node will be moving into your Virgo seventh house of marriage, partnership, really any personal or professional partnership that feels significant to you. Now, this is highlighting the you versus the other axis, right? Your needs versus the needs of others. So those are definite themes that could be highlighted over the next year and a half to 18 months. But the North Node is moving into your Pisces first house of self. So Saturn has been moving through your Pisces first house for some time, creating, a lot of lessons and discipline about who you are and who you want to be and how you want to show up in the world. It could have been, on a more day-to-day level. It could have been, it could be and have been a challenging time focusing on sort of your body, your appearance. Some of you might have felt with Saturn going through the first, sometimes you can feel kind of depleted, drained. It could just feel really hard to focus on, you with everything going on. But regardless, with the North Node now moving into this area, it's sort of changing things because the North Node, the transiting North Node, is definitely sort of this, in my opinion, this point of increase, this point of desire. And so I think this is when things might really start to change energetically for a lot of you in terms of like, yes, I want to focus on myself. I need to focus on myself. I want to, with Saturn being here too, it's sort of like this could be the point in time where things change into you strengthening your body, strengthening your identity, strengthening, how you want to be seen by the world. So this could definitely be an increased time of strengthening of who you are, which can come with its challenges. But I think this could be a really great time to really focus on yourself. Now, the South Node is in your Virgo seventh house of marriage and partnership. This could be personal or professional. So it's important to not forget how to integrate that within partnership, how to sort of seek comfort in the close partnerships that you do have or you want to come into your life, so that you can perfect and improve the area of partnership that supports the version of you want to be. So this is why I think it's important to not forget both ends of the nodes. Yes, focus on yourself, strengthening yourself, your appearance, your body, who you want to be, especially with Saturn there. Saturn is trying to strengthen your vessel, literally. But that South Node in the Virgo seventh house of marriage and partnership is sort of like what needs to be released within partnership or patterns you've created or even outgrown at this point within partnership that has prevented you from being who you want to be and focusing on yourself. So this could be a time of like changes in partnership, changes to the people you attract into your life, or just making some adjustments within marriage, within partnership to sort of create the space and expansiveness to focusing on sort of like yourself, your body, your appearance, and strengthening that. Now, it's important to note these are angular houses, so they're going to be squaring your other angular houses, your fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate, as well as your 10th house of career, business, and public recognition. So whatever sort of beginnings and endings and adjustments and, improving and perfecting the area of partnership or the partnerships you want to attract into your life so that it can be integrated and balanced in supporting you and vice versa, that can consequently create the action and change to career, business, public recognition, home, family, property, and real estate. So it's not just about you versus the other in life. It's whatever is being strengthened, integrated, and sort of an invitation for you to really focus on yourself in ways where you can really start to feel more fulfilled individually, and how to integrate that or attract certain partnerships. Again, integrating that within your current partnerships and attracting partnerships that support that so that you and the other close people in your life feel like it's balanced, my needs versus the needs of others, and they're integrated. They can be balanced, they can be, perfected, improved, and integrated for more expansion. It's not just about that. It's not just about you and your partnerships. It's whatever is playing out in these areas where that North Node is heavily focused on you. It is also creating opportunities for change to, home, family, property, real estate, career, business. So some of you might, yes, be looking at yourself, partnerships, all of what I just mentioned, but you may also start to see it play out with, your living situation or your family situation or your career, your business, your public recognition. So it's all angular. It's all happening very angular in your chart and thus your life. And so especially when the eclipses come in, March of 2025, I think there's like a lot of changes, a lot of reviewing and revising in these 4 areas. But ultimately, it's sort of like this isn't just about you versus the other people in your life. It's creating, even for some of you, the necessary change to sort of like, so for example, if you're going to strengthen and improve, who you are and focus on, what you really need and integrating that to improve and perfect your close partnerships in your life. If you're strengthening and improving and perfecting and, focusing on yourself and the needs of others, you're going to look at your career differently. You're going to look at your living situation differently. So I think that's what I'm trying to say is like, when we make big changes to ourselves and integrate that within our partnerships, our perspective changes. So your perspective on where you live and where you want to live, or, perspectives on, certain family relationships or people you live with, your perspective on your career, your business, your public recognition, those are going to change based off of the identity you are focusing on or strengthening or creating. So definitely think about the bigger picture here, especially because if you are a Pisces rising, your 10th house is Sagittarius. If your midheaven is in Sagittarius, This is really, I mean, from a natal perspective, in my opinion, this is an opportunity to think bigger. Where can you, if you're strengthening yourself and focusing on yourself, you are consequently increasing your capacity for more in life. So there's challenges like eclipses in the 1st and the 7th. There's definitely going to be some, some things, some beginnings, some endings, some changes. But I think with the North Node going through the 1st, it's all really trying to serve you, serve your identity, get you to strengthen yourself and how you want to show up in the world and what you want to be known for. And so, again, whenever we go through trials and tribulations in life, and like I said, it doesn't all have to be bad. There can be like really good things that come with eclipses. I think eclipses get a bad reputation. I've had many like wonderful major changes come with eclipses, even with my 1st and my 7th. And so, there can be many good things. And I think with the North Node going through the 1st, again, it's like an excellent time to focus on what you really need, what you really want. And whatever comes up that is creating the change and the action, it's really just strengthening you. It's strengthening your partnership. It's strengthening your vessel. So whenever that happens, you're really just increasing or doubling your capacity for more, which is going to, I think, increase your capacity for more career, more public recognition, more home, family, property, and real estate.